Good morning to you 832 beautiful subscribers. Hope you're all well. Haven't checked in every single day because there's not enough to be done, so apologies for not checking in as often as I used to. Before I start, give me that thumbs up below, and anybody that's not subscribed, hit that subscription button and the bell so I can bore you to death with more videos as and when they come forward. This week is manholes, potentially the wood on the gates, and certainly the front door. And I'm also still talking to a pool contractor about potentially taking on the pool if we can afford it and he can work with us. Help I need. Wood on the gate. We've got the company that's willing to provide the wood, but they're now too busy to cut it down and plane it so that we can just fix it. So I'm looking for someone on the island that can, what do they call it here? They don't call it cutting. But anyway, I need it cut into lengths of 4 foot by widths of the wood itself. And obviously I need that sanded down so that it has a nice effect. So I'm looking for somebody that can grab hold of probably 8 foot by 6 inch by 2 inch planks of potentially sapella or sapellia, I think it's called, which is a hard African wood. And I want someone that's going to plane that down into potentially 3/4 of an inch thick pieces and sand those down. So if anybody knows anybody, let me know, and then we can start fixing that onto the gates to give it the effect that we're looking for. So that would be nice if anybody knows anyone. We're working on the front door. We've worked out that the front door, the individual that did the front door did a very poor job. What we've since discovered is that he's filled the door with some form of filler, sanded it, sprayed it, then filled it again, sanded it and sprayed it again. So we actually have found that there's white grey levels on the door, which is awful. And he's not primed it properly, which means that the paint's not bedding into that product very well. So we have a bit of an awful door, but what we're going to try and do is we're going to make it look pretty for this year by sanding it down, priming it, and coating it with a satin wood in the same colour as the door, with, I think it's called anthracite, I think it's called. A very dark grey satin wood, and we're going to use a foam roller to try and get the dimple effect very small, and then we'll use a wet and dry and we'll go over it again and try and get it as smooth as we physically can by rolling it, which, as you can appreciate, is very different than spraying. So we're going to give that a go, and I'll show you where we are with that so far. And then also the manholes. You saw the stainless manhole, I think it's over here somewhere. Stainless. The aluminium manhole. They're being made as we speak, so we need to get into all the manholes and get all of the 2x4 frameworks out. So there's a 2x4 framework sitting in the hole, and then there's a ply lid. You saw in the video last week the one that I took up and took out, and it was rotten and it was full of termites and cockroaches. So I'm hoping that all the others aren't the same, but the chances are they probably are going to be. So I need to get them out, get them up, give the termites and the cockroaches nothing to eat, and then just get a reasonably nice bit of ply put back down so that when he turns up, he can just pull the ply up, install the actual framework, and then drop the lid in. That's one of the plans we're going to have. And then we also are talking to a couple of landscapers at the moment about the options for the rear garden and the front return garden. The front return garden, obviously we still have all the actual grass pods that are there. We didn't pull all of them out, we just pulled probably about 15 feet. We went down about 15 feet with a de-weed, and I've got a sheet down there which I'll show you in a second. But the landscaper's coming out saying, why don't you just use the grass, which we may do. So I need to get it completely de-weeded, work out what's grass, reseed in and around where the grass pods are to get more grass growing through, and potentially go with the grass at the front and there for now. I did want to go AstroTurf, but it's expensive and the grass is already growing through anyway, so it's worth obviously giving that an option. And then the back of the garden here, the piece at the back, I've asked them to give me a quote to turf it, because I don't have the time or the patience to be waiting for things to grow through and having a weed problem. And so I've asked them to give me a price on turfing, which I assume is going to be quite expensive. I think it's between 20 and 25 a roll. They're about 3 foot by 2 foot. And as you can appreciate, it's about 70 foot by 30, 35 foot. So it's not going to be cheap. So let me just quickly show you where we are with the door. The biggest issue I'm having with the front door is the wind. So number one, obviously, as we're filling and sanding, that dust is blowing through the house. So as you can see, the door looks very different. The obviously logo is in the door frame itself. So again, that should have been papered up and taped, so we didn't have to worry about that. But it's not been done. So anyway, we've sanded down most of the door frame from the outside and given the front a quick coat. I probably would have used a water-based primer for now myself. and then sanded down, then use the sort of oil-based primer over the top of that. But it looks like he's gone straight in for the satin. So today we're going to be sanding down the inside, because again, all the actual plasterboard inside here and down here has all been done as well. So let me quickly show you that. So yeah, lots of actual dust down here, which has been a real pain. And in typical construction style, nothing's been moved, so everything's covered in bloody dust. So obviously all the little holes like this have been filled and sanded down. There's lots of white marks on this door, so he needs to exhaust this one. We need to take the alarm system off, and that's got to be remounted after the painting and the sanding's been done. The framework on the outside's been sanded down and undercoated. This one's going to be sanded today, and as you can see, the plasterboard's now been put into here, all the way through here and all the way down here now. So it's a case of now sanding that down as best we can to try and make sure that you can't see it, certainly when you're standing down that side of the hallway. Now the other thing we've got to do today as well, we've got to cut about 1/2 inch of the plasterboard off all the way down here. The main reason why is that when we had heavy rain yesterday, the water came in here, hit this wall, came underneath the door, and landed up coming over here and being blown all the way over here. Now it's quite rare that we have the wind and rain at that level, but obviously it landed up coming into the electrical cupboard. So we've got to think about what is the best bet to try and stop that water coming through. I mean, apart from some form of lip at the bottom of the door, or some form of front lip and underneath lip, I don't know how we're going to get around doing that. So it's some thought I need to put into it. It's a rare occasion, but obviously it's going to happen. And obviously what I don't want is the plasterboard absorbing that water. And it also means that we can't use the MDF board on here as well, because that just absorbs it like a sponge. So we're going to have to go with PVC all the way along here and get that painted in, and hopefully it looks the same as the others. Otherwise we've got another problem to contend with. As you can see, we've had to obviously secure all this because this also went a bit weak as well. But today what we're going to do is to try and make this a bit more stable. We're going to fire some fixer foam into here and here and here to try and make sure that's all pushed out and stable, to take that sponginess away. Otherwise we are going to start getting cracking, and the cracking will also start taking place along here where the plasterboard has been installed. So that's going to happen today, but I need to make sure the dust is kept down because it's just ridiculous. I mean, everything should have been moved. So I'm going to rip into him when he turns up. One of my bugbears is just no preparation. It's just straight into stuff without preparing. This is a livable house after all, so we do need to make sure that we treat it accordingly. But the downside to that, obviously, and it's a favour, obviously trying to get this sanded down with the door open is an absolute nightmare. So it's trying to do it with the door in place, with the wind the way it is. Now, yesterday the wind really died down, so it was a good way of jumping straight on it, a good time to jump straight on it. But today the wind seems to be back up again and coming back this way, which means we have to tape up this door. Otherwise the wind's going to keep blowing, and any dust is going to get blown this way, and it's going to land up going straight through the house, which is an absolute no-no. As you can see yesterday, it's just, everywhere you look, it's just dust. Anyway, that's unfortunate. That's part and parcel of sanding down compound, unfortunately. Out here, we've put a bit of dust sheet, a bit of weed sheet down here to stop the weeds coming through and allowed obviously the aloe vera to breathe as it is now. And we did start this one last week because our intention was to roll this straight down. It's still very, my concern is at the moment it's still quite a lot of movement in here even when it gets wet, and it shouldn't be by now. But as you can see, we pulled a few of the weeds out yesterday, and the pods are all still here. So obviously they're not going to disappear, but obviously they're not getting a lot of light, so they're going to struggle to breathe with all this lot hanging around. So I think what I will do is try and see if I can borrow, hire or purchase one of those petrol strimmers, and I think I might just strim right through here, get it strim right back, and then find out what weed killer I need to put on here to ensure it doesn't affect the grass. And I've also got to bear in mind, if I'm going to seed, it doesn't affect the seed. So some of the actual killers out there kill any form of seed but don't kill grass, which is great, which means it won't affect the grass we podded, but it does mean if I then want to seed in and around here, then obviously the seeds won't germinate, whatever you call it. So I've got to bear that in mind. But as you can see, we're getting a nice little jungle going through here, from the grass that we have out the front through to long grassed weeds, you name it, we've got all of it. And the other thing also is this is wild grass. So even if I trim this back and spray this with a weed killer, it's not going to kill this because it's classed as a grass. So when you pick certain weed killers, it's trying to leave certain things alone and kill certain things, and that is classed as a grass even though it's a weed. So that would have to be manually cut or pulled out in order to see the pods that might and should still be in there somewhere. So anyway, got to do that. This is the grease trap that I did last week that was rotten. Still not perfect, but certainly a lot more healthy now. Still a few horrible little cretins down there. So I'm going to start with pulling this one out and doing the one down there today, and then I'm going to work myself around the house to get the rest done. I'm assuming Dion is very, very close to wanting to install the manholes that he's making. So as you can see, I've got to remove the 2x4s that are underneath, and then I've got to remove the top, and then I've got to talk to Dion about when he's going to be ready to do that, because what I don't want to do is start creating loads of weaknesses around my building and the chances of people falling down. So we've got obviously one here, we've got the two small ones here don't need to be done. They're two plastic ones into the septic tank. That one's already been done, the well. And then we have one here which is on the pathway, another one which is on the pathway. We have a grease trap about here somewhere. We have another one, another manhole here, and then we have a grease trap further down that way. And I've got to do all of those, so it won't take too long. But obviously I've got to bust the framework out and then just sit the lid back on top. The lid doesn't have to be fixed down, but I should do really just in case. I mean, my kids don't really come out here and play on those anyway, and I can tell them not to do it. But obviously it's having it loosely. I mean, yesterday the landscapers here and they're standing on that one. It's like it's not even fixed. So I am creating a little bit of a weakness. The other issue I do have is that I still have an issue with the well down here that is broken. It still has not been fixed. I've had the local political representative out with the man that does the wells for this area, and I'm also now in touch with the head of the drainage division, and he's promised he's going to come out, and he hasn't turned up 3 times now. So I sent him an email yesterday saying, look, enough's enough, you have to come. So we'll see what I've got to chase him up on that. I've spotted 2 sets of tourists coming down here wanting to walk to the beach and walking straight over it. I mean, at some stage someone's going to fall in. So maybe that's how Barbados works. Maybe they've got to wait for someone to fall in and break their neck before they do something about it. Hopefully that's not how it works, and fingers crossed they can get out and just get it rectified. We still have the leak up on the roof slightly, which does tell me that the hopper that goes in the top of the gutter that obviously has been concreted around, the connection between the hopper and the drainage, I think that's where it's coming from. Now it goes down at an angle and goes down, so I've managed to get rubber all the way around like you saw in one of the last videos, but I can't get the rubber up underneath. So I'm getting a little tiny bit of leaking coming in. We had a lot of rain yesterday and we had a little tiny bit coming in. So I think that's where the leak's coming from, but I can't get in there. So apart from spraying something up, or I'm really not too sure, or trying to get one of my kids with their little hands to get it up, but again they've got to try and get it on the roof and down, so rubber obviously is not going to want to stay there, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but that's what we've got to do. So I'm going to I think the plumber's talking about coming out on Thursday to give me a hand with that, at least to have a look and give me a second set of eyes. I'll report to you a bit later on, but at the moment that's where we are. I'll also show you some updated pictures as of when we start priming the inside. Hopefully we don't have loads of dust today. So again, before we go, give me a thumbs up. Nice to see you all back, and hopefully you'd like to see me back, and I'll check in with you a bit later on today. Thanks for watching. Okay, so we're at 12 o'clock. That's how we do it in England. On this bloody 3, 4, 5 days. Okay, so managed to get most of the weeds and everything out that are in relation to not meant to be there. So we obviously had the grass pods put in, so trying to actually get the weeds and everything else taken out in between all of the actual grass pods was pretty difficult. There's some pretty aggressive stuff in there, that's for sure, and it's still not completely out. There's still a few in here, but it took me 3 hours to get the whole lot done. And as you can appreciate, trying to do it in and around the grass pods without pulling them up and ruining them as well is quite difficult. And then I've still got to get rid of all of this rubbish. So anyway, I'm going to do that in a minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick read up, or maybe contact Queenman's and find out what I can spray down here to kill the weeds. That doesn't obviously affect the grass, but at the same time, some of the actual weeds are grass weeds. So you need a weed killer that will kill the weeds, won't kill the grass, but also will kill the grass weeds. If that makes any sense. So that will be interesting to try and find out whether we can or can't. But anyway, that's done, and that was a bit of a killer, I must admit. That was bloody hard. But again, it was done in a 3-hour period, not a 3-week period. Sherwin is in here doing the door, so he's done the inside and sanded down the inside, and he's currently now working on the outside. So that's now getting a sand down, and we're going to get that completely sanded down in and out, including frame and walls, and then we can start obviously painting up. So we've locked the door here, and we bagged off the main entrance into the house to stop the dust going through. We'll get everything finally out that was in there, cleaned it all up, got it blasted off with the blower. Hopefully we can do that moving forward, so I don't keep killing everything all the time. I also need to try and find some latches for this gate and the utilities area as well, because at the moment they're blowing open and banging, which I don't want to get them damaged. So anyone got any ideas where I can go to get something nice, let me know. I'll probably speak to Dion, he's the man obviously. So they're very light, so they don't slam a lot, and so there's no markings on them. But obviously I need something that's going to be holding the gate about there. And obviously in an ideal world it needs to be electric and connected to this, so that when the gate is in operation over here, this locks. But again, not essential. And then whilst I'm out here later on as well, I need to obviously de-weed out here as well, because it looks like the actual mat that was used wasn't very good. As you can see, loads of obviously this growing through. Little friend. So yeah, I need to get all of this put over here. In England we would put that into like a square and use that as compost, but again it's all weeds, so I don't really want to be using weeds as compost. Bear in mind it's going to come back with a vengeance, so I need to get all of that put over here if I can. Bear in mind this is growing nicely. That's where we are so far. The door being worked on, number one, front grass and the manholes. Actually I only got onto one manhole, managed to find it, took it off. It's been done already, and then thought, you know what, damn, I need to get stuck into all these bleeding weeds. So I did that. So I now need to go back around now. Once I finish weeding this, I need to walk around and try and get the actual other manholes taken up and sorted out. So it looks like once the wood's removed, you don't really have any problems. So removing the wood is quite an essential thing, otherwise we're going to have loads of termites and cockroaches. So I'm going to be working on that, and I'll update you as I go. But before I go, give me a like and a subscription down below, thank you. Okay, so we're 4:15. Sorry about the wind, although the wind is lovely. We're done down here. That's been sprayed with pest treatment, and it's also then been sprayed with a weed killer. Fingers crossed it won't kill every weed. That's classed as a grass, obviously. Out here has all been de-weeded, sprayed, and gotten rid of. And the first coat of the new colour on the door. So, pain in the arse of a door, lots of work to be done, but it's starting to look a little bit better. So, it's not going to be too bad. I mean, that is very smooth. So I think once we've actually put a few coats on that, I think it'll be absolutely fine. So I want to try and get everything done, all of it rolled, few coats on there. Echo Beach is looking pretty sad. We'll get that cleaned, get that done, get this refilled all the way down here as well, and then we are good to go. We'll leave the front door after that. So it's the same colour as the windows, same colour as the garage door. It looks better as well in that colour. So apart from that, that's all that's been happening today. It's been lots of weeding, lots of spraying of pest treatment, weed treatment, and the front door. So hopefully you like, and give me a like below. I'll upload tonight, and I'll try and check in with you later on this week. Good seawall.